latest chit chat. Grab your popcorn, sit tight, we're ready to roll. In the heart of Sactown, we're feeding your soul. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star. With the NFL, Adams in the ring. Rhino's got the wisdom, hear the praises we sing. Court in session, it's a royal affair. With the fans all around, feel the passion in the air. In the King's Court, the vibe's electric. If you don't like that, we're here to correct it. With the best in the game, we're raising the bar. From the hardwood to the airways, we're the King's shining star.
Happy Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. How we doing today? What's going on? Jerry Reynolds joins us at 4 o'clock. Welcome to the new NBA, everyone. We talked about it leading up to the season. We've talked about it all season. The NBA is changed, at least for the next 7 years. Well, 6 years. Because you're pretty much through this season. And yeah, if you're
getting ready for work right now, then you're probably not.
Tom Thibodeau. Add Tom Thibodeau to the list of fired coaches this year. Shams broke the news just a little bit, about 2 hours ago. Not sure if you're surprised. Waiting to see what Patrick thinks. Here is Shams breaking the news.
Tom Thibodeau has been relieved of his duties as head coach of the New York Knicks. Sources tell me after 5 seasons as head coach of the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau is out. He led them to 4 playoff appearances in 5 years as head coach. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time in 25 years. They won back-to-back 50-plus win seasons for the first time since the 1990s. But I'm told the Knicks believe that they need a new voice, someone that can take them to the next step of the organization's future, which they hope is an NBA championship. This is a team that obviously has talent: Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby. They feel like they need a new voice, and that's what the decision was made today by Knicks ownership. James Dolan, Leon Rose informed Tom Thibodeau today that he has been let go as head coach.
It does somewhat feel like this has a James Dolan fingerprint or 2 on it. Not that I'm going to go to New York and dust for Prince. Dolan's laid out for the most part and let Leon Rose do his thing in New York. But that team, think about this. Now, certainly the goal, the ultimate goal, is to win a championship. That team was built to beat the Boston Celtics. And I have a lot of respect for Tibbs, and they did beat the Boston Celtics. And Celtics fan, don't come in here and say, well, if Tatum didn't get injured, you were losing that series before Tatum got injured. Hands down. Tibbs did things his way in New York. He took a ton of heat for the playing time that the starters were getting. Mikal Bridges spoke out about it early on in the season, and he kept doing his thing. Now, he did change up a little bit into that Indiana series. He went deeper into the bench, but look at the numbers. Add him to the list, by the way, that I guess Vivek started. We talked about this yesterday. Add him to the list of fired head coaches this season in the NBA. More fired head coaches from playoff teams than non-playoff teams, which why I say welcome to the new norm in the NBA. That's what I think it's going to be. You have owners that have no tolerance. They don't have the money to stay in the aprons and pay the luxury tax that it takes. So if an owner is going to push all of his chips into the middle of the table, You've got one shot. You don't get it right, you're gone. In some ways, as crazy as it sounds, there's more job security if you're in a rebuild. Let me repeat that. There's more job security if you are coaching a team that is rebuilding. It is championship or bust in many of these situations. Now, you can argue that there's a couple different situations, i.e., the two teams that are in the NBA Finals this year, which we'll talk to Jerry Reynolds about here in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes, well, 50 minutes. He shows up a little bit early. Excited to talk everything in terms of what happened today with Tom Thibodeau. I want to continue the conversation we had yesterday around Sabonis and Tyrese Halliburton. So Jerry, very close to everything, knows everything. We've got some new intro music for Jerry. We'll debut that. We've got some new imaging. Here's a shocking statistic. Every coach of the year from 22-23 to 17-18 has been fired. Think about that. They have all lost their jobs, and there's one reason for it. We'll go over it. It's something that's confusing. It's something that we can put in the basics into layman's terms, but I'm telling you, there's not rooms, but you have one or two people that it is their job to know this CBA in and out in every organization, but it's the CBA. It's the parity. In fact, I've got a graphic that I'm going to put up after we talk about the CBA to show you how much things have changed. And what's amazing about the Pacers, because that graphic goes back to 2012, look at how little they have paid. I don't think they've paid luxury tax. So we'll check that here in a little bit. Don't forget, and thanks for being here, by the way, Ryan in Sactown with you on a Jerry Reynolds Tuesday. He joins us at 4 o'clock. If you have questions for Jerry, put them in the chat. Would love to get those answered. I already know that my man Peter has identified a player that I've likely never heard of that he's going to throw at us today. Adam's probably got a random wrestling question for Jerry, but in all seriousness, any questions for Jerry, we try to mix in as many as we can. Also, get involved with the show. You can call. Really grateful to have you here, by the way. Thank you for allowing me into your ears, your offices, your homes, your cars, wherever it may be. Really looking forward to talking Kings basketball and NBA basketball with you here until about the 5 o'clock hour. You know what? I'm going to go straight to the phones because he is in the heart of this. He has listened to this. This has been his life for the last basketball season. Is Tibbs playing the guys too many minutes? Should they keep Tibbs? Should they fire Tibbs? Patrick has had his beat on the Knicks, and man, like I'm just wondering, like, is this Knicks fan right now? Are they going bing bong?
New York Knicks run New York City!
Bing bong.
Tell me a little something, KD. Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Or is Knicks fan concerned? We get the answer for you right now. Let's bring Patrick on to the show. My man, he's off early. Well, I start an hour later now, so that works for him too. Patrick,
yes, it does. How you doing, Ryan?
good. How are you?
I'm like totally flabbergasted here. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I could have gone either way if they kept Tibbs or got rid of Tibbs, but I wasn't expecting him to be gone like 2 days after the last game. I mean, this week we could have been playing to get into the finals yesterday, and now today he's gone.
Yeah. What was the general sentiment? I mean, I know it's early on, but is there more surprise? Is there excitement?
I think there's well. First of all, I just got out of work, so I don't know what exactly is going on. But I know that I've had my criticisms of Tibbs. I mean, I went on the phone with Grant a few weeks ago and was losing it over him. But Tibbs. I mean, he's a really good coach. I'm surprised at the timing that they would just do it this fast. I
Sure.
mean,
Sure. You got to think, Patrick, they've they have to have somebody in mind. And I know you've been at work, you haven't heard. There's been a lot of chatter about Mike Malone, but I don't see the Knicks bringing in another guy that's very similar to Tibbs, where he digs his heels in.
Right, he's very dogmatic or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
they probably want to get somebody to go in a totally different direction. I mean, it's just all I can say is just very surprising. And I did think last week, if the Knicks didn't win that game 5, that Tibbs was going to be gone, because you can't have 3 home games in a series and not be able to defend your floor.
It's a great point. It's a great point.
So I thought once he won that game, not that he'd be a hometown hero or anything, but at least he defended the floor, and that it was good enough to save his job. But I guess not. I mean, the funny thing is, I'm used to coaches being fired in February. The last
Right.
20 years, I've never seen a coach fired in like June for the Knicks. I mean,
It's gonna be the new normal, Patrick.
Yeah.
If the owners push their chips into the middle of the table and they go into the luxury tax or they go into the aprons, and that means they've got 2 years to win a championship. So you're gonna get one crack at it, no matter who you are. It's just you're seeing it across the board right now.
I mean, if the Knicks got rid of one of the players, one of the starting 5, I don't think it was going to really affect it either way. Them getting further, they had to do something really drastic, I guess. And the only question is who are you going to replace Tibbs with? I mean, it's just very, there are candidates out there. I mean, you got Bolton. I can't pronounce his name. The guy who used to coach for the Bucks. You have him out there.
Yep.
And you got Malone, and I mean, they definitely, I'm just, and the other thing is that shocking is that. Brunson is Tibbs's, godson, so, and Tibbs, I know, I'm sorry going off here, but
No, I was hoping you'd call, so.
I mean, I know Rose, I'm sorry, but I know Rose was responsible for bringing a lot of these people here, but I think Brunson coming here was a big part of it, was Tibbs. I mean, he got friendly with his dad. And then his dad became assistant coach here, and then there's questions of tampering, but he got Brunson here. So and then him taking the cut, and Brunson did stick up for Tibbs the day they lost 2 days ago.
Brunson was asked about his future, coach's future, and he's like, "Wait, is that a thing?" He's like, "His job's on the line." I did speak to somebody, and maybe you can talk to this a little bit more. Maybe you've heard those whispers too. But maybe a little bit of tension that's not unnormal. It's basketball. These are grown men. They're professionals, about shot distribution and the ball being in Brunson's hand, which I would argue, who else are you going to put the ball? Where are you going to put the ball?
I mean, Bridges made a big stink about him not getting the ball in March, but I mean, he's spotty. I mean, you brought up Fox the other day if he wants to play with Brunson. I mean, I think Fox and Bridges are almost like the same type of player,
That's a good point.
Very shot eccentric. So, I mean, I really don't have that much more to say. It's just going to be interesting off season for sure. I mean, this is the off season already.
You hit the nail on the head. It's who are they going to replace him with? And that coach has to, my guess would be, and Tibbs just got a contract extension. He got a 2-year extension.
I tell you one thing, you get an extension in this league, you might as well start looking for another job. I mean,
that the last 6 coaches of the year up until this year no longer have jobs. So it's insane. Patrick, thanks for kicking us off today, buddy. Anything?
Yeah, hey, one last thing to tell you. Tibbs is a lifer. I mean, he's not even married or anything. I mean, this is his life. Being a coach. I mean, I'm sure he's going to jump to another team, even though he has a couple of years on his contract. I'm almost sure he's going to coach another team. I mean, I wouldn't want to speculate who, but I'm just saying I can see him coaching one more time.
Oh, absolutely. The guy sleeps in the office. He doesn't leave the building.
Oh yeah.
It's going to be a hell of an offseason if you need a coach. There are some big names out there. There's some huge names out there.
I can't see Patrick Ewing coaching, but Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that would be interesting. So, hey,
Oh,
appreciate you.
Frank Vogel. I don't want to see him.
Look at look
Sorry,
at
I'm already spotting this here.
yeah, look at Jeff Van Gundy hanging on at plus 2,500.
Hey, Mark Jackson, welcome back.
Yeah, there you go. Welcome back to the party, pal. Patrick, take care, brother. Love you.
All right, take
Thanks.
care, my friend. Thanks.
Good stuff from Patrick. It's the $1 million question. Who's going to replace Tibbs? In fact, I mean, if you can get yourself a multiple year deal and you don't get it done, I guess you're still getting paid, but it's incredible. Like I said, the new NBA, don't want to ignore all of you because we've got Jerry coming up in about 45 minutes. So let's get to the chat. Actually, you know what? Before we get to the chat, I do want to talk about one thing really quick. And it was completely off the cuff. It was incredible. It pulled you in. If you did not get a chance to watch Grant's show last night, his open forum show, he had an incredible 25 to 30-minute monologue about the month of June, June 2nd, what he remembers June for traditionally, how things changed on June 2nd, things going forward. It was, I felt like I talked to Grant on a daily basis, and I texted them this right after the show. I said, man, like I felt like you were in my living room and you were talking to me one-on-one, like a close friend. I highly encourage you all to go check that show out. You can catch it on the audio, on Spotify, Apple. You can also rewatch it here on the channel. Do it after the King's Court, after Jerry drops in. But that's one that you're not going to want to miss. I would tell you, since I've been working with Grant, that was possibly, quite possibly, his best work on this channel. Quite possibly. It's in the conversation. So if any of you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. Go check out the first 25, 30 minutes of that show. All right, let's get back to all of you before Jerry gets up in here. Can't wait to talk to him. Let's go to the chat. And Grant's back at 8 o'clock. Thanks, producer. He's back at 8 o'clock, so you can talk to him again tonight. I'm going from the top down. What's up, Flores? How you doing, buddy? I anticipated Tibbs being fired. Not surprised. All right. Patrick is off the clock. We know that. Peter, the GM in New York, is one that should have been fired. Only 9 players under contract for 2025 and $4 million over the first apron. Kings are 9 players and 26 under the apron. So they're screwed. Well, they went all in, Peter. They went all in on this season. This was going to be the season. I think that they were already feeling like they were all in. And then towards the start of training camp, or right before training camp opened, there was just we're going to go a little bit more. We're going to do more. And like Patrick and I just said, Tibbs got a contract extension last offseason. He's still got $30 million on the books. So if Dolan and owners, which I do think, because that doesn't go towards the salary cap, coaches pay, I think owners are going to be willing to eat salary. Taylor Jenkins, I don't know all the guys' contracts per se off the top of my head, but you look at the list, and I'm not going to include Mike Brown because the Kings did not make the playoffs, but Taylor Jenkins, Mike Malone, Tom Thibodeau now. It's insane. And I think you're going to continue seeing it. You're absolutely going to. Fan of changing coaches, asking a question. No new player today. Liam stole my homework. All right. Well, go get that kid to do some chores then. If you could do that for me, that would be great. Would really appreciate that. Scott Brooks to the Knicks. I don't know. See, Michael Malone's the sexy name, but I just don't think you go there. I think you're going to be looking for, and the person that I spoke to on the East Coast that covers the team, they think the Knicks want to, and Patrick, chime in, they think the Knicks want to play a little bit more up tempo. And Mike Malone ain't that guy. The Jokic system ain't going to do that. And you're going to have it Mike Malone's way. I think you need a breath of fresh air. I just don't know who that is. It might be on the staff. Every single coach that has been fired, the interim coach has been hired as the new head coach this season. Why wouldn't rebuild team fire coaches? It's a results-driven league. Well, it depends on your situation. Again, I go back to this, and we'll continue getting to your comments. This is what changed everything. So I'm going to show you this chart first. Here's a chart from, guess my computer does not want to change. We're going to freeze up on Jerry Reynolds Tuesday? We better not. All right, so there's a chart for you of the last 12 years, tax bills and team performance since 2012. Teams were willing. In fact, look at your teams that weren't ever willing to go into the tax and look at the results. Charlotte, Sacramento, Orlando's an outlier. They drafted well and developed well. Atlanta, and look at the Pacers. The Pacers. I'm sorry. I don't want to throw more salt in some of your wounds. The Hali Heartburn. The Pacers have not gone into the tax. But look at every team below that. Now, some of them are complete dumpster fires. Phoenix, Matt Ishbia paying over $180 million in luxury tax this year for a team that didn't make the playoffs. And some of those teams, most of those teams in that top or the bottom third have won a championship. Phoenix hasn't. Cleveland got theirs with Braun. The Lakers have. Brooklyn has not. The Clippers have not. Golden State, 4 championships. So Miami, kind of the exception to the rule there, but they still paid $74 million in tax. So that's what you were able to do in the old CBA. Not a big deal, right? And by the way, that's total tax paid. That's not tax paid per season. That's total tax paid. Here were your tax-paying teams this year. Golden State, and these were their bills. Oh, no, this is their tax payments per team. So $176 million for Golden State, 142. Ishbia, 168, or excuse me, 68. Milwaukee, 52. I thought theirs were higher. I think that got adjusted. Boston, 43.8. Denver, 20.2. And then Miami and the Lakers. Now, this is why you're seeing such a drastic change. You have these aprons that have been instituted into the CBA, which aim to really level the playing field, per se, and redistribute some of the talent that we've talked about. You can read, I'm not going to go through every single point on here, but there's severe penalties for going into the luxury tax. And those two numbers, the 178.1 and the 188.9, those were for this season. The numbers will be higher next year. But there's a lot of things that you are not able to do. There's future things that you might be giving up. There's things in the season that you are now handcuffed to where you can't use or get a guy on a veteran's minimum when you go all in. So that is why you are seeing a much shorter leash for some of these coaches. Now, I don't think all of the coaches fall into the category. Mike Brown certainly does not. The Kings, not a tax-paying team. I really don't think Taylor Jenkins falls in there either. But Michael Malone, no doubt, falls into that category. Tom Thibodeau now falls into that category. If I would have asked you at the start of the season who the 5 best coaches are in the league, my guess is those 2 names would be included in that 5. Both have been fired. Owners Owners simply do not have the money to put together the super teams. And if they do, you have got one shot at it. In the Knicks case, I think they've got one more year. I know Peter brought up what they have on the books. They're going to be big players here in the offseason. They will find a way to be big players, especially with Tatum looking to be out for next season. So it is a drastically different NBA, and this really accelerated quickly. This is going to be, listen to me today on June 3rd, 2025. This is going to be the new norm. It is. Sham said this is going to be the craziest offseason, craziest free agency period in the history of the NBA, and I completely agree with him, 100%. So, all right, let's get back to the chat while you kind of continue looking at that. I saw the CBA coming, and it's largely because I'm going to give him credit. Bobby Marks. I really was listening and paying attention to what Bobby Marks was talking about during the playoffs last year. He was all about this during the playoffs. And I'm like, well, if he's really talking this thing up, it's going to be something. Oh, are you, Adam? Checking in from 30,000 feet. What's up, dude? You're either on Mount Everest or you're on an airplane. Hey, Adam, don't be a part of that club, bro. Check that. You know Adam wishes he was in my position on my flight home from Dallas. Oh my goodness. Have a safe flight. Are you going? Look, it's already the question. No, nobody joined the club that day. But now Adam, very, very well, maybe a candidate for that. We made the play-in. Yeah, you did not make the playoffs. Cat is gone. Peter, look at how many interim coaches had the interim label removed. I just said it a few minutes ago. Exactly. But when it comes to eating payroll or eating coaches' salaries, I think the owners, they're just going to do it. They're going to live with it because eating that salary, if you feel like a different coach is going to give you a better look when you're all in, what's the extra 30 million bucks? I don't think it's that big of a deal to them. Now, other teams like the Kings, it's a little bit of a bigger deal. You know, Vivek ain't happy about making that payment to Mike Brown, but it's been the norm for the Kings. Mike Malone, Taylor Jenkins. Yep. Look at the coaching candidates. The Suns have been entertaining how long they are taking to isolate that coach. Yes. Okay. I respect the Suns, Peter, because they're actually doing a coaching search. What a novel idea. We are actually going to do a coaching search, but they're looking for the right guy because that guy, first off, nobody's jumping to go be the coach of the Phoenix Suns. The big names are not, because that's going to turn into a rebuild. I don't think Matt Ishbia is going to be as aggressive as he was when he first took over the team and acquired Durant, stole Durant in the middle of the night at the last hour of the trade deadline. I just don't see it happening. And I put that coach, whoever it's going to end up being, into that category where if you are a coach in a rebuild, you have more job security than a playoff coach. Period. End of story. That is going to be the new norm. So whoever that coach is, just like Jordi Fernandez in Brooklyn, they're going to give him some runway. That was part of the understanding when Jordi took that job. The great unknown, Kings fans would kill for Tibbs. Yeah, well, again, salt in the wound because you didn't actually do a coaching search. That actually would be one for me where I would not say a word about the ties to the Knicks if they hired Tibbs. I actually like Tibbs a lot. Some people, it really depends on, well, it really depends the most for an NBA player. But if you've played sports, you know, we talked about Dion's son yesterday about being coachable or not, or what style of coach you like. Some guys prefer the players' coaches, some others prefer the authoritarians. I kind of like the authoritarian. I've played for both. I kind of like the authoritarian. And that's what Tibbs is. He does things his way. I like it. What's up, Richard? How you doing today, buddy? Jerry Reynolds coming up here in just about 30 minutes. 30 minutes on the dot. Do you have a question for Jerry in regards to the finals, in regards to the Kings, in regards to Tyrese Halliburton? Have the Kings failed Domantas Sabonis? I think we've beat the point guard conversation into the ground with Jerry. I think that we all know we need one, and we don't know what the budget's going to be. We've talked about the DeMar situation. So questions for Jerry. Does not have to be about this season. It could be about something in the past. You want to ask him a question about him and Larry Bird. Stuff like that. You can do it. You want to talk to him about chicken and dumplings? He's willing to do that as well. So looking forward to having Jerry on here in a few minutes. You still are a couple days out from the NBA Finals. Would you call me crazy if I told you that the Oklahoma City Thunder, who, by the way, had the highest net rating this season in the regular season in the history of the NBA, anybody want to take a guess at what their net rating is on their home court in the playoffs this year? I would love to see somebody take a guess. In fact, you know what? Let me give you Indiana's net rating at home. Indiana's net rating at home during the playoffs, and they played really well at home, it's 5.8. What do you think Oklahoma City's net rating is on their home court? It's crazy. It's nuts. I tweeted it out a little bit ago. All these names are going to be traded. What names? Yes, maybe, maybe, no, maybe, maybe, no, maybe, and probably. If you're following along, I just went in order of the list. If you're listening on the audio platform, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Dennis said these 10 names are going to be traded. Kevin Durant, yes. Giannis, maybe. Trae Young, maybe. Zion, absolutely not. Lowry, Markkanen, no. Cat, maybe. Paul George, I don't know who's going to take that contract. Jaylen Brown, I don't think so, especially with Tatum hurt. Domantas Sabonis, maybe. Cam Johnson, yes. That is why you got those yes, no, maybe, the weird pauses. Who's taking the Paul George contract? Who is taking Paul George's contract? Didn't work out in LA. It hasn't worked out in Philadelphia. He's a year older, more injuries, and he just re-upped last season. Zion, no, there's no, I don't. There were reports that Zion was not going to get traded or the Pelicans didn't have plans to move him before the lawsuit got filed. So I don't see, I just, with that hanging over Zion's head, maybe if it gets dismissed, that changes. But with that hanging over his head, I think that's and I am not saying that Zion Williamson is guilty. I'm just saying that is complicated. That is very complicated. And it wasn't, and presumably because the name in the lawsuit is Jane Doe. But presumably, according to the reporting, it was somebody that was known to be a girlfriend of Zion Williamson's. So at least you know it's not a random. There was some type of tie between the two. Certainly, could it be extortion? Maybe. We brought up the different names. Trevor Bauer, San Diego State punter, Buffalo Bills punter, never got another shot in the NFL. It could go either way, but in this day and age, look at the Deshaun Watson stuff, y'all. Like, is there another sports name that's more unsavory than Deshaun Watson? Like, it just feels dirty. Like, you want to go brush your teeth after that name comes out of your mouth. Think about how Cleveland swooped him up and did him a couple of favors, no pun intended, with the first year of his contracts. They knew he was going to be suspended. Justin Tucker going through the exact same thing right now. Now, Zion's lawsuit has nothing to do with massage parlors, but it's in line with some of the things those two have been accused of. So I just don't see any team until that is resolved. That's a risk before the lawsuit to take on Zion. Right? Can he stay in shape? Can he stay healthy? I listened to Antonio Davis talk about Zion and how special, and he calls the games for the Pelicans, how special of a talent Zion is. He is literally a bowling ball with a remote control. But the unknowns, that is already a big risk. And I just laid out with the CBA what that means to take on the money. And that's why the Zach LaVine thing under this CBA, just, man, that's a tough bullet to swallow. What's up, MC? How you doing, man? Thank you.
Acknowledge me.
Appreciate the thumbs up. Give us a like. We would really appreciate it. Unfortunately, no new videos today on Vivek. If you're tuning in for Vivek's latest installment of his life story that doesn't include the Kings, we don't have it. So anyways, Jerry coming up here in a little bit over 20 minutes. If you have a question for the one and only, put it in the chat. We will get to those. I'm planning, and usually when I'm planning to take the conversation a certain way, we end up somewhere else. But I do want to talk a little bit more about yesterday's conversation with Jerry. If you weren't here yesterday, the conversation was, have the Kings failed Domantas Sabonis? Have they failed Domantas Sabonis? We've already kicked around, would the team be different if Hali was here? But have the Kings hurt Domantas Sabonis's stock, in my opinion? Also, we'll preview the finals. We will get into your questions. So come on back. If you're just joining the show, Tom Thibodeau loses his job after rocking it out in New York City. I mean, back-to-back 50-win seasons. You're built to beat the Celtics and win a championship. You accomplish one of those two things. A ton of criticism from Knicks fans, and realize, like, Knicks fans are going to criticize no matter what you do. But a lot of them, Stephen A. Smith being really the ringleader of the minutes. What's Tibbs calling Patrick? The minutes police? I don't think it had anything to do with minutes. I think it has everything to do with the new CBA. Check this out. Every single coach from 2017 to 2023 that's been the coach of the year have all been fired. And expect the trend to continue because of this CBA. Expect the trend to continue. Here's some of the names being mentioned. Jay Wright is kind of an interesting one. You don't exactly have the full Villanova connection anymore. I think that's interesting. I don't see Kenny Atkinson jumping out of Cleveland. I just don't. But at the same time, I don't know how much he's taking in Cleveland. If you're just tuning in, and we'll ask Jerry about this, my take is under this new CBA, the Kings, well, not even just the Kings, Brooklyn, Utah, Portland, not so much because now they're kind of at the point where they should start turning a corner. But if you are a franchise that is in rebuild mode, you are a coach. That coach has their seat is so much cooler than the seat of any playoff coach in the NBA. And especially if your team is in the luxury tax. You're going to continue seeing one and dones with teams that are in the luxury tax. If they have a 2-year window and the coach doesn't get it done in year one, expect them to be fired. It's just going to be how it is. Because not only is it not getting it done in those 2 years, but the repercussions down the line, the next 2 seasons that you may face depending on which apron you were in and how much tax you paid. This is, to me, one of the most incredible graphics. I did not put this together, but how do you not shake your head at that? What you're looking at is from 2012 to current, to this season. That's the total amount of tax paid by teams in the NBA versus winning percentage and success. No surprise that Golden State, most championships, most tax, almost $750 million. But look at the top of that graphic. Look at the Pacers, 60 or 51 playoff wins, a winning percentage in the regular season, 53.4%, and they have paid zero tax. Zero tax. You know what that means? You are a damn good organization. Got a good group around you. You got a good coach. So incredible stuff. They would be the exception to the rule when it comes to a seat being hot if they don't win the championship this year, because they're not paying any tax. So I teased this question for you before Jerry came on. What's the Thunder's home net rating during the playoffs? Remember, they had the highest net rating in the league this year, and it was the highest of all time in the NBA. Their net rating at home is 24.6. No wonder some sports books have them at plus 700, plus 750 to win the championship. That means you have to put down $700 or $750 to win 100. 24.6. Now here's the other side of that. They're a negative 6.9 on the road. That's a 30-point difference. That's insane. So here's my question to you. Who do you feel better about? When you look at these statistics, you've got the Pacers on the left. You've got the Thunder on the right. Who do you feel better about? Do you feel better about a team that has that big of a swing between home and road? And by the way, net rating is kind of it's the stat. If there's one stat in basketball that you look to that can tell you everything you need to know about a team, that's the stat. Would you rather be the Thunder? 24 points. They are averaging every win at home by 24.6 points, but they're negative 6.9 on the road. Would you rather be them or would you rather be the Pacers? 5.8 at home, 2.5 on the road. How about that? That tells me this is going to be a super interesting series right away. And that's the other aspect. If you were with us yesterday, the NBA and the media covering the NBA poo-pooing this series because you don't have a big market involved. What are we doing? Why did they sign the collective bargaining agreement? Because the CBA is a year ahead of schedule producing these two teams. These are the two best teams left. And if you're also on that train of, oh, I'm so sick of the three-point era, it turned me off. Like if you were watching the All-Star game a couple of years ago when it was in Indy and Adam Silver went all in, holds it at a football stadium, right? Gets an LED floor, which the players I know were not super fond of. But you go all in. We are going to, hey guys, I really need you. I need you to show up and be competitive. I need you to play some defense. What happens? This happens.
And to the Eastern Conference All-Stars, you scored the most points. Well, congratulations.
It's an excellent point, Mars. It's a very good point. Yeah. And then you have this year's all-star change. You've got Draymond Green poo-pooing things. Well, if you were turning off the NBA because of all those things, because you don't like guys not giving effort, then theoretically, this is the series that you were dreaming of. This is what you want. This NBA Finals. This is the kryptonite of that style of basketball. And we've got everybody complaining about it. So it's like, as a fan, as a consumer, what do you want? Do you want a mixture of the both? Shea Gilgeous Alexander, he's a foul merchant. Tyrese Halliburton. What do you want? The NBA should be pushing and embracing this finals. Doesn't it seem like it's been so much more quiet in between the end of the conference finals and the NBA finals, which it's way too long of a break. Media day is tomorrow, so most people getting into town today in Oklahoma City, but it's been way more quiet. It really has. You say the Kings wouldn't have been able to build the right team around Halliburton. I say the Kings wouldn't have had the right coach for Halliburton. So we had that. Grant and I had this conversation, and I was in your camp too. I said he would have gotten likely the same support that Domantas Sabonis got. But now that I've got a bigger taste of Hali, and I listened to Grant's argument, I looked at both sides of it, and his argument is Hali is just a special talent. He's just a special player. Like, he's there, he energizes everybody. Other guys want to come play with him. I wonder, Mars, and yes, the coaching, that's the thing. But here's the counter. Would the owner's hand have been forced to do more with a player like that? Could you have gotten better free agents? And could you have attracted a bigger coach? All unknowns. We're not going to know. But I was with you. I was with you there. NBA coach firings a turnoff. Give me Jeff Van Gundy. I don't necessarily disagree with that on the surface. Interesting. Bringing up Hurley. You know, Dan Hurley, that's a really interesting name. That's a very interesting name. I mean, the New York media would absolutely love having Dan Hurley because he's going to give you material every single day. But can Dan Hurley handle the New York City media? He's not exactly Tibbs when it comes to being stoic. Never coached in the NBA, but the family pedigree. I think it's got to be. It does need to be somebody like that. But didn't Dan Hurley do this dance last season with the Lakers? Or did the Lakers do the dance? I'll say this. If I'm Dan Hurley, I probably wouldn't be upset about leaving college the way that college is right now. Jerry and I talked about it last week. It's basically pro sports. In fact, it's more cutthroat than pro sports. There's no rules in place right now with the transfer portals other than when they open and when they close. You just don't know. And then we get this. Lyra Valkyria is fantastic. You think Lyra's fantastic, huh? Interesting. You know what she is? You know what Lyra is? And we've already established the whole Seinfeld, the light thing. She's like that car that just won't turn over. You know? Like you go to start your car and it's like, you think it's going to turn over, but it never does. And it's a damn good car too when it runs. It just doesn't turn over for me. She's not exciting, Adam. I don't know. It's a good question. I would like to know where Corn Dog's at. Now reports Kings are heavily trying to trade Domas. Who's now? New reports? Is that what you mean, Dennis? Well, if you, let's put it this way. If you serve Domas up on a silver platter, like you did De'Aaron Fox, this team's even more screwed. And I mean that with all due respect to this team. This organization and the people in it are in a difficult spot. You've got a lot to do with very little to work with. And some of the decisions, to me, the bigger decisions for the Kings are on guys like Keon Ellis, Keegan Murray. I call them universal pieces. They could go to any 30 teams in the NBA and they would fit. That's a difference between Tyrese Halliburton and Domas. That's a big difference right there for the people still having that conversation. Tyrese is universal. Domas is not. But you have two there that are universal. Jake LaRavia If the Kings can get him back, that gives you now 3 players that can all switch, that can all guard. I think Jake LaRavie and Keegan Murray can guard 1 through 5 in certain positions. I think they can. I know Keegan can. Jake's the question about being able to guard a 1 off of a switch. Keon Ellis can guard 1 through 3, maybe a 4 once in a while. Maybe, if it's a perimeter 4. And then Devin Carter, Jerry and I had this talk last week. Devin Carter, he looks like a guy that should be able to guard 1 through 3 at the very minimum, probably 4 as well. So you've got some young pieces. Jake LaRavie is not a dude. Well, then why isn't he in the WNBA? I don't understand, Daniel. You've got some really good young pieces that center around defense. And I would tell you, the decisions at the bottom or the middle of this roster are just as big as the decisions at the top with Domas. But with Fox, we've talked about it on this show. The Spurs got served De'Aaron Fox on a silver freaking platter. They have very little skin in the game with De'Aaron Fox, which is interesting to me. Maybe I will bring that up to Jerry. I think that's an interesting conversation. Because they now have 2 picks in the lottery and the last 2 rookies of the year. And Giannis possibly making it onto the market. And they would be in a good spot to get Giannis. So if you do anything like that with Domas, forget about it. Would you do Austin Reeves and cap filler for Sabonis? Okay, here's the thing, Mars. I don't know that I would, because the whole theory of the pick and roll, that kind of changes if you get rid of Sabonis. You got V under a good contract for another couple of years, but he's not pick and roll guy. So now your offense completely changes. Does an Austin Reeves, Zach LaVine backcourt work? I don't know. Did a Kobe White, Zach LaVine backcourt work? Yeah, if the Kings made a move before trading DeRozan, that would really shock me. That would, yeah. I don't know. But here's the thing. I'm not going to lie. You get a good deal for Sabonis. If you feel like you are getting fair value for Sabonis, I'm not opposed to taking it. He's on the books for another through 27-28. This season, he's going to make 43.6. Next season, 46.7, closer to 46.8. And then the final year, that deal 49.9. Because if you listen to our conversation yesterday, the point that I was trying to make is the Kings kind of failed him.
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
And we can go back to the De'Aaron stuff. We don't really need to. But all of the distributing fell onto Sabonis's plate. And as soon as it wasn't on his plate, it was on everyone else's plate that weren't playmakers, that aren't ball handlers. And we saw what happened. So, interesting time to be talking basketball. The NBA Finals getting ready to kick off here in a couple of days. Sacramento ablaze right now with different rumors. Coaches getting fired left and right, playoff coaches. We are lucky enough to be able to talk these things and more, your questions, with the one and only Mr. Jerry Reynolds. Jerry doesn't know this, but Jerry now has new imaging. It is time for Jerry Reynolds Tuesday here on the King's Court.
It's Jerry Reynolds, Tuesday, let the good times roll. King's legend in the house, he's got the game on the scroll. With endless coaching wisdom and stories to share. When he talks shit, birds, and Kings basketball, you better be there. Jerry Reynolds, Tuesday's the place to be. Basketball magic, it's a sight to see. Chicken and dumplings on his plate. With a side of laughter, it's a perfect fate.
How'd we do there, Jerry?
How
How did we do?
That's pretty darn good. Pretty darn good. Yeah, I was going to say, sadly, you hit it right between the eyes.
I tried to go for like a little bit of a French lick sound, but
Yeah.
with a little bit of a more modern look. You know, you got the classic singer there. So
Yeah, no, that sound would have fit right in Bertie Ballard's bar right there on Main Street in French Lick. That's for sure.
that's the greatest compliment. I gotta acknowledge
Not.
that.
Holy
And do
moly,
a holy moly.
Jimbo!
Well, we had plenty of. By the way, how are you doing this week, bud?
Great. Yeah, really looking forward to the finals. Obviously, we've got two awfully good teams. I think well matched, and let's get it on. And too bad with Kings no draft picks or anything like that. So, hey, it's just focus on the finals, and maybe something good will happen with the Kings as we get into summer.
Yeah, Jerry, what's the focus of the front office right now? If you're assuming that you're only going to pick at 42, how are you going about who you're working out? Are you looking at guys that may be at 42? Are you working out guys that probably won't be drafted? What's the approach?
Well, I think all the above. I think you've got to focus on the pick that you have. That's the 42nd. Who might be there, and agents aren't going to send in to guys, top 10 guys for a potential 42nd. So, but it's also true. My guess is that they're looking at hopefully options to move up, whether it's in the first round or even better in the second round, and so. So they've got to think along those lines and maybe convince some agents and players that they're going to get in the first round late or something, and get maybe a different type of player in. Certainly we know how the mocks go, and there's certain guys that are considered first round guys, and then of course second round guys, and all. So they got to. Basically, it's one of those things where they really got to prepare for a lot of different directions.
What's that conversation look like with an agent? Because many teams are not going to show their hand right now. In fact, they're probably going to bluff on what they like and who they don't like. But how do you convince an agent that you're going to move up, but also know that the agent's probably going to talk with other teams?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you exactly how it's going to go with most of them. They're going to say, oh, when you get the 10th pick, call me. my guy who's could go anywhere from 8 to 15, he'll be there.
Okay.
Until then, no thanks. No, I can tell you that's how that's going to go.
Good stuff. We've got NBA finals still to discuss. We thought last week that at this time today it would be this matchup, the Thunder and the Pacers. I have a shocking stat for you, and I'm going to ask you a question on that. But first, we got to hit Tom Thibodeau out of New York. Some a surprise, some a not a surprise. Jerry, the floor is yours.
Well, it's as surprises me. I can't say it totally surprised me, because with James Dolan as the owner, I really don't think Leon Rose would have been in favor of that. He'd been Thibodeau's agent back in the day. Right. And he's the one that hired him. And, I think it's one of those things which we're seeing more and more now. It's almost like a Ricky Bobby of Talladega Nights. If you ain't first, you're last, kind of thing, which is pretty silly. This is the way we're getting now. We're quality coaches, regardless of what they do. And, Thibodeau, you look at his record there and what they'd been before. I think there's an excellent chance that the Knicks really take a step backwards. And it's like, yeah, they got beat, but who thought they should beat Boston? But they did. And
Well, they were built to beat Boston and win a championship.
yeah, and they did. Now the problem was, of course, the same team that beat them last year in the playoffs, Indiana, was there, and Indiana was a year older and a year better, really. And so like I say, with Siakam had just come in the middle of the year, and then now he had a full year, and so they were just better prepared, I think. But I think they're the better team. I think Indiana is the better team. That they're more talented, they're deeper, and certainly extremely well coached. So did he deserve fired? No, not at all, of course. And but that does deserve has nothing to do with it. And it's just one of those things to where it's like a Michael Malone or the whatever coaches let go. You're hoping to get a different voice and hoping that in I think in Denver's case it probably worked out okay, at least short term. We don't know how it'll be long term. And
well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, that's so.
David Adelman seems like the right voice, seems like he was getting ready, whether it was going to be in Denver or somebody else was going to be a head coach. And that team really reacted well. I said that the winner of that series would beat the Timberwolves, hands down. Those were the two better teams in the Western Conference.
Yeah, totally agree. I mean, Denver didn't have the depth of the Timberwolves, but again, they were the better team. And I think, of course, Jokic was kind of the edge. But I agree with you. I thought Adelman did an outstanding job, and deserved the head coaching spot. I mean, the question will always be his relationship with the Joker in different places. It seemed to be terrific. How well, we just don't know what kind of a shelf life that sort of thing does happen. But I think it's a good move on Denver's part. And like you said, he was ready to be a head coach somewhere.
What's scary is Aaron Gordon playing with a grade 2 hamstring. Michael Thompson Jr. can't lift, or Michael Porter Jr. can't lift his arm above his head. And then we find out that Russ Westbrook had a hand issue that he just had surgery for. And they take the Thunder to 7, Jerry.
Yeah, well, that's an awfully good team. I mean, I think starting 5-wise, I still think they're the best, maybe the best, but they certainly didn't have Oklahoma City's depth or Indiana's depth, and they needed all those guys healthy, all of them healthy. And of course, Russ off the bench, who had an awfully good year for him. And, they needed all those guys healthy, and it didn't have them.
Yep, I agree. All right, we're going to mix in some questions from the chat. Jerry, who is the best point guard you've ever coached?
Well,
besides yourself.
Yeah, well, no, it'd be it'd be a tough call because neither guy was a pure point, but I'd say Reggie Theus and Danny Ainge, both would very close. I mean, I think Danny was probably a little bit better as a playmaker. And they're both kind of combo guards, and Reggie probably a little bit better scorer, but both near Hall of Fame caliber players.
No doubt about it. Okay, we'll get to your question here in a second, Dennis. I want to kind of ease into that. So Grant made an argument last week. We were having the conversation, you and I tiptoed around it as well, about Halliburton and what if he would have stayed here. Grant said that Tyrese Halliburton is just a special player, and there's a difference between a special player and a special talent. How do you react to that?
Well, I think it looks like today, I mean, he's, Tyrese, to his credit, has kept getting better. Now, it's also true they've surrounded him with the kind of players that fits his talent, and I always say that was the thing that struck me with, knowing that operation very well, whether it's Kevin Pritchard and Larry Bird and Rick Carlisle, they've been attached at the hip to some level for years and years. And, they're basketball guys.
Yeah.
And once they got Tyrese, then it's like, okay, we've got our point guard. Now, they didn't necessarily know he'd be as good as he is, but then they, basically have built the team to fit him. And Siakam was kind of the final piece, but I mean they do a marvelous job, probably better than any team in the league, of identifying players, that are on the uptick when maybe the team that has them doesn't know that, like an Obi Toppin, like Naismith, was
Mhm.
a lottery pick of Boston. They gave up on him too soon, and I think that's that's to their credit, because those are really good guys. And they've drafted well, but I think when you get Nemhard in the second round, and Mathurin was a lottery, but overall, I think they've just done a marvelous job of seeing what kind of player Tyrese was when they got him, and then saying, oh, he can be better than that, and we're going to give him a chance to be better than that, and they have.
So, which leads me to this question. When the Kings brought Sabonis in, did they feel like Sabonis was going to be the man, or was Fox the man and Sabonis was the Siakam to Fox?
I think when they brought in Sabonis, they really did it with the idea that this would help Fox. I mean, that was kind of the deal. I think, right or wrong, whether you believe it or not, or agree, they didn't feel like there was a future with those two guys together, because they both viewed themselves as number one guys, and they both probably are. Could it have worked out? Probably. But then again, you don't know. You still would have to have the right surrounding cast. Two guards, aren't gonna win a lot without a really good front line. So there's that. So I think that the idea was that kind of the way it worked out that first year, that Fox would be able to take a step up, and Domas, he's a complete player, and gave him a position they didn't fill, a position they didn't have, better than anybody they'd ever had. And so they'd be good. What, in my opinion, and fans out there might disagree, but what they didn't do was build on what they had. In other words, as Indiana that first year, I think won 25 games or so, but they were smart enough to say, oh no, we can't just run it back. We've got to get talent to help our point guard. And where the Kings, I think all of us fans on the site, and me and you and Grant, have said, boy, even after that first year, they need a long wing. At least one, maybe two, and I'm sure maybe they knew that, but they weren't able to get it. And so, I think, to me, that's kind of your story, where one team built out correctly and the other didn't.
There's an amazing graphic that I put up earlier in the show, Jerry, and it shows from 2012 to this year, all of the taxpayers, shows every team in the NBA, what they paid in luxury tax versus their success. The Pacers have a 53.4% winning percentage. They won 51 playoff games, and they have not paid a penny in luxury tax.
Yeah, there again, I mean, they've just done it. And I know that from my associations with people down at the organization, is that with Herb Simon, that's always been his contention. He doesn't want to get in the luxury tax. Now, I understand now he might view it a little different if in fact they might need something to continue to contend for the championships. But and I think that's kind of why you should do it. You shouldn't, if you're going to go in the tax, don't just go into it to be in the play-in game.
Exactly.
And then we really have no room to do anything. But like I say, there's some franchises. I mean, Oklahoma City's been one that's been highly efficient with their money and getting players, and of course Indiana. Over the years, Utah's been the same way. For a small market, they've been extremely efficient in what they do. So, the Kings, haven't I don't think spent any money in the luxury, and
not a penny.
And probably where they are today, they shouldn't.
That's the funny thing. The other teams have not spent a penny. Surprisingly, Detroit, well, they're about to with Cade Cunningham now that well, no, because it doesn't go against tax. You taught me that.
Right.
They've got a 38% winning percentage, 42% for the Charlotte Hornets, the Kings at 39.7, and then Orlando at 39.4%. But Orlando has the most playoff wins out of that group that I mentioned. So I think what you said with the tax in the CBA and these aprons, we're looking now at an NBA, and not every coach like Mike Brown, I don't think he was, Taylor Jenkins wasn't, that was fired during the season. Not every coach falls into this category, but the category is this, Jerry. If you're an owner and you're going to go all in, say the Pacers don't win this year, and you push the chips to the middle of the table, in a lot of situations, that is going to be a much hotter seat than a coach that's in a rebuild because of the consequences.
Oh, absolutely. And you're so right. I mean, especially teams in the tax. So all of a sudden, these franchises are worth a lot more. Now they're worth billions instead of hundreds of millions. So their value is so much more. You're paying your players. Now you got your top players making 50, 60 million. And so a coach that's making 8 or 10 million, it's like, well, that all of a sudden, that's not as big a deal to eat that salary. When you look at the value of the franchise, the payer, what you're paying the players. So, that's kind of why we're seeing a lot of what we're seeing. I don't know that it's still, I'm not convinced it makes a lot of sense. But I understand changing coaches because at some point they need another voice. But I like I say, in my mind, we're seeing owners just move too fast on a lot of those things.
I agree. Sorry, I was reading a comment from Tristan, and the last time Tristan did something like this, we got the "Come on, Tristan, pay attention, Tristan," from you. Tristan, Jerry, what's your thoughts on the ongoing International Pro Table Tennis Tour? WTT, Zhendong or Yingsha?
Well, Tristan, you might be surprised by this, but I really don't have a clue. So I know that shocks you that I'm not following that closely. I mean, I will say this: the what little I'm like everybody. I've played ping pong, table tennis, if you would, at times. But I'm so amazed when you see the top level players.
Oh, it's crazy.
It's like one of those things. How can they possibly do that? I mean, it's just off the wall. But sorry, Tristan. I'll just take your word for whatever you think is going on there.
Jerry, think about how much work that guy had to do, because he doesn't follow that sport. He's like, okay, what's the most obscure sport I could look up? All right. He's probably spent 20 minutes penning that thing out. Dennis had a question about Domantas Sabonis, which I'm trying to find right now in the chat, but it was basically if you were able to trade him this offseason. We talked about DeMar last week. You can check that out on the replays. But if you're going to trade him, are you looking to get an immediate impact player? Or are you looking for picks and to kick the can down the road and rebuild?
Well, I think I think the problem you've got is with a guy like Domas. I mean, he's got a salary, so almost always you're going to have to take a player with a contract back. It may not have to match because teams may not have, say, $40 million of room, and so you have to have that. And there's very few teams that have that, and so you really are probably forced. If so, let's say you move Domas, you'd like to get a first round pick, but you're probably going to have to take a player, and hopefully it's a player that you would like, a young player on the rise in a position that you need, that type of thing. But in short of that, I don't know. You can't really move him unless you can get at least a couple of those things. And like say the the thing I think with fans, a lot of times as fans, we think, well, just trade this guy and get a couple of first rounds for him. Well, the team you're trying to trade him to, they don't have cap room, so you can't do that. They have
Bingo.
cap room. You can go over the cap to sign your own free agents, but you can't go over the cap to get somebody else's free agents or fit another guy into your roster.
I know we're still too closely removed to make a final judgment or comment on the Fox trade, but when we sat here during the season and we talked about the possibility of trading De'Aaron Fox, you thought this time of year would be the best time around the draft. And one thing you said was it could be the biggest trade in Kings history. And as we sit now today, it looks like they handed Fox over on a silver platter. Safe to say, Jerry, the Kings cannot do anything like that with Sabonis.
No, no, they and here again, really for what they got for Fox, they actually might get more for Sabonis, to be honest with you.
Right.
But they, it was a case. I said at the time, and I'm not going to back off. I don't think it's a good trade. I mean, when you have your best asset, which is Fox, and certainly had the most value in the league, why would you trade him for someone that didn't fit your real need?
Yep.
They clearly now have a need at point guard, and they still didn't fill the need at a long wing, or that type thing. So that's what disappointed me the most. It's like, nothing against Zach LaVine, who's terrific. He's a terrific player, but he did not fit a need, and it showed up as the season went on. That because even though he's really good, it probably affected Monk negatively and affected Sabonis negatively. So there again, just like we're talking about the Indianas and Oklahoma cities, it's about getting people to fit. It's a team game, and everybody needs to fit your team and to help and be able to make each other a little bit better. And the Kings, as we saw that in the 48 win team, the third seed team, they did. It was a nice fit. We all complained about Harrison Barnes at times, but he was a great fit.
Kings miss him. The Kings miss him.
Yeah, he was a ball mover, and he'd guard, he'd defend guys and take open shots. Now, he blended in too much. That we've seen a little bit of that with Keegan, because when you got a bunch of, kind of ball stoppers, which Kings do now, and those guys are the ones that get forgotten about.
What you just said at the top of that was so true, though. He was a ball mover, and that was something the Kings did not have. Back to Sabonis. There's a lot of reports that he's unhappy. We know, Jerry, that
Well, the biggest thing is we need a point guard. That's for sure.
he would like to be included in some decision-making conversations, which I know is a tricky thing because now it's kind of the norm with your star players. But back in the day, it can go either way. Both sides of the fence with that. I guess here's my point. Domantas Sabonis, in my opinion, has a reason to be upset if I'm him at this organization.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. I mean, here again, it's pretty much a little bit like what Fox went through. I mean, at some point, you're hoping they had some time, and they certainly should have known what was needed, and basically didn't really solve the problem. Again, I mean, DeMar DeRozan's terrific individual player, but he, not his fault. He is who he is. He's been that way for 15 years. He's a terrific scorer, but he didn't really, fit the style that I think they wanted to play. They became more of a half-court team. Domas was less involved in the offense, and he's a ball mover and an assist maker, and so he was less effective. So, yeah, it's to be honest, they've kind of gotten what they've deserved. And with Domas, I do think, to your real point, I think you should always consult your top players.
Yeah.
I really believe I did that in college, for God's sakes. I mean, for your recruited guys, I wanted, you bring guys in. I wanted my top guys to say, hey, do you have a problem with this guy, or do you want to play with him? How would that be? I mean, because it's a team game. and yet to not consult a top player, I think that's be like a general manager not consulting the coach. I mean, to me, it's pretty silly.
Yeah, well, I think the problem with that is, who do you go to? If you're those guys right now in this organization, you don't know who is supposed to be consulting with you, depending on what's going on.
Yeah,
behind the
well,
scenes.
that's probably another issue there. But I mean, it is pretty clear when you've got this amount of money invested in a couple of guys, you probably it makes sense to let them know what you're thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. As we look back at the last 3 years, and we're going to move on to the finals in a second, but when we look back at the last 3 years of Kings basketball, we have to probably say that it was an outlier in 22-23, even though the Kings this year were relatively healthy again compared to the rest of the NBA. But being the 3 seed with 48 wins, outside of that, I look at what Domantas Sabonis has poured into this city, what he's left on the floor for this team, and I look back and I say, what have they done for him? This team has not done Domantas Sabonis any favors, and he has continued to be productive at a high level.
Yeah. You can't find, there's probably not 7 or 8 guys in the league that's more productive. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, a 60% shooter, which he's been forever from the floor, over 75 in the line, 40 from 3, leads the league in rebounding. He's not a good shot blocker. That's his weakness, but he's also one of the 2 best passing bigs in the league. Certainly only Jokic is clearly better, but other than that, nobody is. So that's what you have. What you don't have is the guy that can kind of cover for him. It's a little bit like, well, yeah, if the Kings had Jaren Jackson Jr., at the 4, well, then you'd have a lot of your bases covered, or an Evan Mobley. Well, I'm just throwing guys out there,
Right.
Guys that fill in the weaknesses. In other words, it's kind of like we were talking about Indiana earlier. Yeah, well, getting Siakam was really a key for them. They were a good team, but they weren't going anywhere until they had that big they could go to for baskets inside, because Miles Turner's not that guy.
No, he's not.
He never was. He's a good shooting center that doesn't rebound. But he blocks shots, but he doesn't rebound. And so there's that. So, but it's and there's nothing wrong with it as long as you know what you got.
Yeah.
And what you need for it to all work.
Naz Reid might be available.
Yeah, it's going to cost some money, and I think, but he's going to be available because I don't know if Minnesota can keep him.
Right.
And, yeah, I think he'd be a terrific fit here. I really do. Of course, I've thought that for years, and he's lively, can shoot the 3 ball, can guard the center position, as well as get out on the floor and play fast. So,
I think Naz Reid, and outside of the growth of Anthony Edwards, Naz Reid is probably the second reason that team has made 2 finals in a row. You remember when they got Gobert and you already had Towns, we're like, man, that's a big lineup. You said, what are they going to do with Reid? Just what you said too. He would be great in Sacramento. And they immediately re-signed him. And it gave that offense a completely different look.
Yeah, and defensively too, because there was a lot of times, Karl Anthony Towns is really a poor defender, which we know.
It's bad.
He's really a poor defender. And Gobert's terrific around the basket, but he's not good out on the perimeter. And there's a lot of times when they, certainly in this year, where they were more effective playing Naz at the 5 and just take off the floor if you wanted to get out after guys and stuff. So, yeah, he's a real player. I mean, to me, he's a little bit like Jaren Jackson Jr., probably not quite the scorer, but I think it's a lot closer. To me, they're a lot closer than, reputations are.
It's a great point. The consistency is what separates it. And you wonder, Jaren Jackson Jr. gets more looks. He's getting more shots than Nas is, but Nas's ability to be efficient with what he has. I mean, when he filled in for Cat last year, when Cat had that late season knee injury, that team was playing better with him.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I was going to say, I mean, that's the thing about Nas for that team. He's clearly one of their 5 best players, whether he starts or not. I mean, he's
Right.
probably one of their top 4 at worst. I mean, Jaden Daniels or whatever, I can't remember his name, but the guy's terrific as well. But, you know, and of course, Ant. But yeah, I think he's a more valuable player than Gobert myself.
Jerry's getting some love because he's looking good. I know one of the secrets is you don't go walking when it's 103 degrees outside. You hit the treadmill, right, Jerry?
Well, yeah, or I'll go early or late. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of getting soft. I'm getting soft in my old age, and I pick my spots. And if it's raining or too hot or too cold or late, whatever, then I get on treadmill, watch a ball game or New York homicide or something like that. See who got killed and things like that. But
okay, yeah, I was going to say,
so, you just when you're 81, you got to fight the fight. You know, I mean, it's the same for everybody. You know, we're all day to day.
Amen. That's
in my case, my days are probably a lot more limited than fans listening in.
You never know, my friend.
No, you don't. That's
you never know. I got a grandma that's 99.
Yeah, I don't know if my financially, if we can last that long. I think Mr. Phil got to slow down a little bit.
Well, we will make sure that you are compensated much better than you are right now. What I'm going to sidetrack us, and then we'll go to the NBA Finals. But when we're in this ridiculously long dead period between the end of the conference finals and the finals, what's on the TV for you?
Well, golf. I love watching golf. You know, especially majors, whether it's men or women, LPGA, PGA. I even watch Senior Tour, Champions Tour. That's my favorite other than basketball. Really used to be a big baseball fan. Don't watch much baseball.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, and then, you know, then I've got my, you know, kind of Dateline and 2020 and things like that. Or of course, Netflix. I just watched a great series on Dale Earnhardt. And I think it's in Amazon Prime, I think. But it was a great documentary kind of thing. And so I get into some of that stuff. And of course, you know, Netflix had the Five Guys and, you know, looking into their lives and things. So those kind of things I enjoy when you can name athletes, whether drivers or jockeys or whoever, and see the background to their life and what their daily routines are. Really interests me. Thing I really wish they would do more on is like caddies. You know, I'd like to know more their life and what kind of the top caddies, how are they living? I mean, I know the golfers, you know, they're making so much money, they're living all the mansions and this, that, and the other, or whatever. And like in basketball, I'd like to know more about the agents. I mean, I know enough about them, you know, in their business, but their life behind the scenes type thing.
For sure. Pull the curtain back a little bit. Like Stevie Williams kind of pulled the curtain back on Tiger once he finished being his caddy. But you think the caddies can't golf. Oh, they can. They know that course just as well or better than a player. Jerry, you were a caddy.
Yeah, I was a caddy, and I mean, you got to know the course, and most of the caddies have been really good players. I mean, I know Xander Schauffele's caddy is a guy he played golf with in college, but you know, the guy was really good, but not good enough to play on the tour, and so. Or Brooke Henderson on the women's tour is one of the best players, and her sister was briefly on the tour, but couldn't quite cut it. But she's obviously an excellent caddy because she understands more than how to carry the bag. She understands the game. So there's a lot to it and a lot of work in it too. So it's kind of like any sport. I mean, there's you have in basketball. I mean, now some of the GMs are former agents. Well, in my mind, they might not have as much expertise in spotting talent and things, but then they also have really a lot of expertise in contracts and getting into or really having a relationship with other agents, things of that.
Right.
So there's pluses and minuses however you go, and
Well,
then
yeah,
stats are so big that you can always fill in the blanks. It's like a head coach. If you're not real strong on defense, well, then get you a strong defensive specialist to help you as an assistant.
Yeah, I probably lean, and I would be interested in that. I lean a little bit more towards the caddy behind the curtain because I feel like the agent thing might be like the real house husbands of the NBA agents. It might get a little bit
Yeah.
drama filled. But the caddy thing, here's the other thing. Is there a position in sports, especially in an individual sport, where you put that much trust into another person, a golfer to a caddy?
That's a great point too, and I mean, and they have to have real trust in one
Yeah.
another. That's they're clearly that's a real team. The ones successful. You see, the Scotty Scheffler, his caddy. They've been together a long time. I mean, a lot of stability. I always said that's generally a good thing in the NBA as well, stability. But especially if you're having success. I guess the Knicks don't agree with that today, but
you hit the nail on the head. James Dolan's fingerprints are all over that one. We got Haunted Horse encouraging you to watch baseball, give it another try because of the pitch count. Adam needs Jerry to watch some WWE. Keep wishing, Adam. Maybe I will text Jerry like a 30-second clip of some WWE, and he can say he did it.
Well, I mean, for me, and unless Macho Man Randy Savage comes back, I don't know, but I used to watch a lot. My son Jay, he's a big fan, and so we used to watch a good bit, but I got kind of gotten away from it. But yeah, I admire those guys are athletes. I mean, I don't care, and the women too. I mean, I definitely and baseball. I'll get into baseball a lot. I get into it later all the time, but September, August, September, I'll start getting into it. I mean, one of the things is I've kind of got I'm a Mike Trout fan, a huge fan of Mike Trout, and he's been hurt.
I wish
so
he could
much,
stay healthy.
and it just can't stay healthy. And that really does take a lot of the interest it did for me away.
I'm 100% with you. Okay. NBA Finals. We got to get our predictions in. I'm going to throw you an insane stat. So, in a couple of thoughts, the Thunder are ridiculous favorites, plus 750. Any team that's been that high of a favorite has won 7 times in a row. I think it's over a certain amount. I don't have the exact number. But I also think that you've got fans in the NBA playing both sides of the fences. We're sick of the 3-point game. We're turning off the TV. Well, if that's the case, this is everything you've wanted in an NBA Finals, minus it being a big city. And even for the NBA, Jerry, the CBA targets to even the playing field for smaller markets to get into position. So theoretically, this series is a year ahead of its time. And I just think it's going to be a really good one. But here's the stat I'm going to tell you. I'm going to see which way you go. Oklahoma City, who had the best net rating in the history of the NBA this year, in the playoffs, their net rating at home is 24.6. On the road, their net rating is negative 6.9. The Pacers at home, their net rating's 5.8. Their net rating on the road is 2.5. Does that give you any extra insight about consistency with these teams?
Well, yeah, it does. I mean, but what it tells me is that in a 7-game series, Oklahoma City's at home 4 times, and they're clearly really tough to beat at home. And now the Pacers obviously can win on the road, but they're not unbeatable at home either.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean, according to those stats, I mean, I can see why Oklahoma City is the favorite. I think it's going to be a 7-game series. I really do, because I think Indiana is a better offensive team. And I think Oklahoma City is the better defensive team. And I think probably the one matchup, which I think could be the key for the Oklahoma City to win, is Lou Dort on Tyrese
Bingo.
Halliburton.
Why
I mean, Tyrese hadn't played against anybody that good.
that
And that's
physical? Yeah. And Tyrese was pretty much taken out of the game the last 2 games of the Indiana series.
Yeah, he wasn't. Yeah, I thought finally, I thought Stan Van Gundy made a great point. I think it was about the 3rd game where they had Mikal Bridges on him, and he was giving him Tyrese a lot of room, kind of like giving a quarterback room in the pocket. They'll pick you apart. And Tyrese is so smart and look over the top. And then the last couple games, they really got into him a lot more and made it tougher for him. I mean, he's still, he's a great player, so he'll find a way to succeed. But the point being, if you're Oklahoma City, Tyrese is going to succeed, but succeed at what level? You can't have the 32 point, 15 assist kind of games. Bring him in at 18 and 8 and 5 rebounds, and that all of a sudden now the game gets tougher for the Pacers. And conversely, I would say the same thing for the Pacers. Is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. If you slow him down, I'm not sure they can score enough.
And you know what? You hit the nail on the head, because I don't think there was a better opponent for Indiana to play in the Eastern Conference than the Knicks, because what the Thunder want to do is be physical. They want to slow you down, and the Pacers want to get out and run. Every game that was high scoring, the Pacers won in the Eastern Conference Finals, but when they were a race to 100, the Knicks won. And so I'm wondering, who do you see? Is it going to be Nesmith? Is it going to be Nembhard that you think might be able to slow down SGA?
Well, I think they'll throw different guys at him, and I think they can slow him down. I don't know if they can slow him enough. The main way is if you can keep him off the line, make him make baskets. It's going to be a real conundrum kind of game. What's going to make it so fun is that the Thunder, if they can get it into half-court game, they're going to win. But it's also true, if the faster the pace, then I think Indiana's chances to win are, because that's where they're at their best. So we'll see. But I do think that the Thunder have a good chance of really slowing Indiana down, because they're going to get back in transition much better than the Knicks did.
Exactly. That is great.
They just got guys that are faster.
It's a great point.
And they're deeper.
I'm just really torn, because everything says, including the statistics, like you said, plus 24.6 at home in the playoffs for the net rating, and saying they get 4 games at home, goes the way of the Thunder. But Jerry, the Pacers just feel like the team of destiny.
They do, and since January, I mean, they started slow. They had some injuries, and we're basically under 500 there for a good early part of the season. But since I think mid-July they've been, other than Oklahoma City, they've been the best team in the league, and which is why they're where they are, and it's why Oklahoma City is where they are. Yeah, I think we got the right 2 teams, and even those 2 small markets, I think there'll be good interest in this series, because you got teams that are fun to watch. You got both teams with good benches, excellent coaches, a young coach, and OKC hasn't had the success of a Rick Carlisle, but I mean, excellent coaches, excellent basketball operations, head to toe, ownership that has basically done everything right as well, and great fan bases.
Everybody has asked who's going to be the next face of the NBA, right? There's been all the talk about more physicality in the playoffs. This, to me, is everything Adam Silver could have dreamed of and more, as I said earlier, outside of it being in a big market. And this really could relaunch a different era of basketball. And you've got 2 guys fighting to be the face or the new face of the league.
Yeah, I mean, you've got that. To me, that's to be determined. Obviously, Gilgeous-Alexander as an MVP certainly would appear to have the leg up on that. I mean, Anthony Edwards is still there, and Luka's still there, and Jokic ain't going away. He's an older player, he and Giannis, but I still think those two guys, Giannis and the Joker, are the two best, most valuable players in the league. If you went to say you got to build a team for 1 year, and you have any player you want for 1 year to build a team around, those are the two guys
Sure.
you'd take. And and then hopefully you can get guys to fit with them. But I mean, so yeah, it's with Tyrese, and I mean, obviously he's carving out a great niche for himself. But they've got with Siakam, a guy that's been an all-star several times and been a champion. Played on a championship team already. I always say, if the what if had the Kings been able to sign Siakam, what if would well, I'm pretty sure the Kings would have been a lot better. I'm not saying they'd be in the finals, but they damn sure been
absolutely
better.
There's no way they wouldn't have, because Domas wouldn't be asked to do his things that aren't necessarily his strengths. It changes everything.
Yeah.
So and it changes their defense. You don't have to pack the paint, Jerry, to protect Sabonis as much.
No, it's well, anyway, it's like I say, it's going to be really a lot. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope most of the hoops fans in the country are part of it. To me, is just really the small market thing, because as a Kings fan with great fan support and small market, and you're really seeing Oklahoma City and Indianapolis, Indiana as basically same situations with teams, how much they're appreciated. Utah was that way for years and probably will be again. Shortly.
Okay, last two questions. You said 7 games. Which way are you going?
I'm going OKC, going with the West team in the West at 168 games, and I think it'll take 7. I really do. And I don't know that either team. I don't know that Oklahoma City can win 4 at home, but I kind of see them winning 3 at home and 1 on the road somewhere to get their 4.
All right, and here's the zinger. Here's what we're going to get you out the door on. We're so thankful to have you on Tuesdays. Knowing what you know right now and where each player is at, if you could go back and pick one, Tyrese or Luka for the Kings?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'd knowing the fact that Tyrese is just better conditioned and everything and a little bit younger, I'd probably take Tyrese. Having said that, I mean, Luka's done quite a bit more, career, and then you don't want to discount that. I mean, I still think, people can say whatever they want about him, but the guy's unguardable, and the best is probably ahead. But if I had to take one to build a team around today, I'd probably take Tyrese.
I'm with you, because people want to play with him. You don't see as many people running to play with Luka.
Yeah, I mean, Luka's more of a ball stopper, and I mean, where Tyrese is a natural point guard, where Luka's really a scorer. He's really a better version of Fox. Or Anthony Edwards. I mean, he's a better version of those guys because he's a more efficient scorer.
It is pretty crazy that you put Luka in the category of Anthony Edwards game wise when you look at them physically. Could it be more different?
Well, yeah. I mean, they're. I mean, obviously Edwards is fantastic, a lot more athletic, but it's also not nearly as skilled either. He's not even close to the skill level of Luka, and so his game is built on athleticism, and Luka's is built on skill, and that's why probably if I had to choose between the two for one season, I would definitely take Luka.
Amen. Well, I hope you enjoy the finals. We'll be talking more next week. We'll have some series to talk about. And Jerry, you know what? It's finals week. Take 2 days off this week. Okay? 2 days.
Okay, well, I'm gonna. I hope I can, but I've got to be ready for Tristan. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I mean, he's putting rubber to the road there. I don't know. This is getting tougher and tougher.
Oh, you just made Tristan's day. He conceded in the chat earlier. He's like, okay, I'll go to golf now since Jerry likes golf.
Okay. Well, yeah. I don't have a lot of confidence in my battle against Houston. I really don't.
You're the best, Jerry. Have a great rest of the week. Glad you like the imaging. I just think it's a great song.
No.
We'll play Jerry out.
Oh, love it. I love it.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Appreciate you.
See ya.
It's Jerry Reynolds Tuesday, let the good times roll. King's legend in the house, he's got the game on the scroll. With endless coaching wisdom and stories to share. When he
I have no moves. How great is that? Are you kidding me? That is so cool. Oh, man. Tristan, look at you making an impact on the legend. There's a lot of good stuff there. A lot of questions that I have been wanting to ask Jer, especially that Luka Tyrese question. Man, he goes the same way. All right. 7-game series. That surprises me a little bit. But I stand by. I do stand by what I said. I think the Knicks really did or I shouldn't say did are. That makes no sense. That don't make no sense. Got to get that up for John Finch. The Knicks were the best team to prepare Indy for this matchup with the Thunder. Now, the Knicks are nowhere near the Thunder.
Don't make no sense.
But they want to play the same style. And the Pacers were able to inflict we've said it all show. We've said it all summer. Whichever team can get their style of play. But that stat, holy crap, man, that 24 again. The Thunder are plus 24.6 when they play at home and negative 6.9 when they play in the road. So if you're looking at that stat, that's not like, oh, on the road it's close and at home it's a major blowout. Both of those numbers are out of whack. You just don't get that far apart, which does say something about consistency, even though they were the best team for the most part in the NBA this year. By net rating, they are the best team in the history of the NBA. We've got another couple days to talk about it. I do have this to say. We are going to be doing some NBA Finals post-game shows here on the channel, kind of like we do the Kings post-game shows. You can come to us after game 1 on Thursday night. Grant and I will be together doing the post on that. So you don't have to watch the national stuff and all the ridiculous interviews where are they going to start interviewing these guys next? Seriously. Anyways, Grant, he's back at 8:00 tonight again. If you weren't here earlier, make sure you make it a priority and go back and watch the first 20 to 30 minutes of Grant's show last night. It was some powerful stuff. It might be, again, I said it earlier in the show, his realist and Grant's always real. He's always real. But Grant let you in last night. He really did. He laid a lot out there. And as somebody that knows Grant the way that I do, I felt like we were in a room talking one-on-one. So I can only imagine what, if you did see the show, how that came across to you. It is an incredible 20 to 30 minutes. So go check it out. It's pretty cool. And it's about some difficult situations. Really cool though. All right. Last minute things. Great show last night, Paul says. Love it. Looks has higher upside, but lower downside. I think that's supposed to be Luka. That's a huge gap. Maybe biggest split in the league. Well, the Kings, okay. I should not even be mentioning the Kings names or the Kings name with these two teams. But the Kings, the 46 win year, they had a massive disparity. It was either plus 20 when they won, or it was negative 18 when they lost. And that's why their net rating was so funky until they started playing that more tough physical race to 100 style. Luka is in another class. Derek, I get it. I get it. But the thing is, you You build around those two guys so differently. You just do. I guess the best way that I could kind of lay it out is if Luka's your franchise player, and I know the Mavs went a completely different route, but if Luka was in Sacramento, you would be handpicking as the front office. I mean, you would have what's it called? One of those things that you look through that the Pirates have. An opt is it what is it? Now I'm having one of these moments on the air. A monocle. You would have a monocle. Right? And you would be identifying and targeting exact pieces that Luka needs, that work with Luka. Like, you have to have this type of player. And there's only so many of those in the league. And you're going to go get one. And they're going to be okay with it because you're playing with Luka Doncic. Now, it might not be enjoyable, but it's likely you're going to be playing meaningful basketball. And many times basketball into the late spring, early summer. When you're building around Tyrese fits with everybody. And you have a ton of people, a ton of players that want to come play with Tyrese. That's the difference with building around those two guys because of their games. Tyrese is universal. Luka is not. Just what Jerry said, the ball stop. That's the difference. Does the ball stop with you? Or can you be effective by playmaking and doing other things? So, interesting stuff. Good show. I appreciate all of you. I'm glad Jerry loved. What's it called? See, for as little as Tristan pretends to know, he actually knows a lot. He's goofing off on us. Rhino's getting my typos. Yeah. Right. I'm getting into them. I'm figuring them out. All right. We are out. Grant, back at 8:00 tonight. Don't forget, take us on the go. If you aren't able to catch the live show or you're catching it later and you're like, oh, I want to listen to some more and you don't have time to sit down in front of the TV, go to Spotify, go to Apple, wherever you get your major podcasts. You can find the King's Court with Rhino. You can also find, if you don't like that with Grant, the audio from each of those shows is up there. Download it, share it with a friend. We'd really appreciate it. Massive thanks to Jerry Reynolds again for joining us today. In fact, I mean, why don't we just let Jerry kind of play us out as we get out of here? But great conversation, fun conversation. Really, really lucky to have the one and only join us. Nape's back tonight, 8:00. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. or 3 p.m., we'll be here on the King's Court. And Thursday, we'll be doing a post-game show for the NBA Finals. So we've got a ton of content coming your way. Go Kings. Light the beam. Stay cool. Court is dismissed. If you want a dose of Haunted Horse, go follow him over to HollywoodRejects.com. He's starting soon. Different type of show, yo. Ain't this show. You're gonna need some tougher skin over there. So appreciate y'all. We will see you tomorrow, 3 p.m. Out.